Bias is when any type of media, whether it be print or radio, TV, reporters specifically, tends to report going in one direction.
In present times, the media has become an extremely important source of information and entertainment. Every day, millions and millions of people tune in to watch their favorite shows, sports, and news. What many people don't realize, however, is that with most sources of the media, there is always some amount of bias. Just for starters, most all news stations cannot avoid bias simply because of the way they have to choose certain topics to report. Bias is also present in entertainment, such as product placement and other things that are on the shows. Bias isn't always as straightforward as it seems. There are sometimes other forms of bias hidden in the media, especially commercials, called subliminal messages. Subliminal meaning beneath alignment, or sensory threshold. In other words, they are meant to be noticed on a subconscious level. Take this advertisement, for example. It seems innocent at first, but pay close enough attention and you'll notice something odd. Sex sells, as they say. This ad is similar, using the word sex to subliminally advertise. Here is one that may have happened by accident, but you be the judge. Studies have shown that our subconscious catches these various messages that are thrown in with the advertisements, and since the messages are associated with things that are pleasurable, like sex, it makes us want to buy the product. But this is not the only way that the media can be biased. On the opposite end of the spectrum, lighting and video effects can make something seem detestable. This happens a lot in political advertising and entertainment networks. For instance, if the politician is against someone, they choose a particularly bad picture of the person to represent them. Try to spot the techniques used in these two campaigns.
How bad is Jeanne Shaheen's record on education? Education Week magazine gave New Hampshire under Shaheen a D on improving teacher quality. She vetoed a bipartisan bill to improve New Hampshire schools. She vetoed measuring student progress. She vetoed increased teacher accountability. She vetoed our children's future. No wonder 1 in 5 New Hampshire children never graduate from high school. Tell Jeanne Shaheen she's not making the grade.
For 8 years, George Bush has led on the economy, and John Sununu has followed. Deregulation, tax cuts for corporations, Wall Street out of control. Now we're facing the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. The Bush-Sununu economic policies have failed, and taxpayers are paying the price. Pretty soon, George Bush will be leaving Washington. Isn't it time for John Sununu to leave too? The Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee is responsible for the content of this episode.
In all these videos, there are a few techniques that reoccur. These are negative words, like failing, bad lighting, terrible pictures, and a little exaggeration. All these techniques are very effective at making the other candidates look like they won't make the grade in office.
Any reporter is going to bring his or her perspective to the story, even if he or she doesn't have a strong opinion about it. Because you still have to make decisions about how to open your story, who to interview, what facts to use and what facts not to use.
So how does bias affect the various media outlets that we commonly use?
It used to be understood that newspapers would make endorsements and candidates or take positions on issues, and if you didn't agree with them, well, you just, moved on to the next day. Nowadays, if people don't agree with you, they don't want to read you. They don't want to see you. They don't want to hear your point of view. They only want to hear the point of view that supports their own biases.
So how can media outlets deal with bias? Remaining objective is a very important thing for media outlets to do. Objective means that a topic is reported without bias. Although it is difficult to remain completely objective, the most important thing for a media outlet to do is to report the facts just the way they are.
A journalist ought to be objective, and that is, open-minded, fair, willing to entertain all viewpoints. The idea is to report the truth.
Bias in the media can be a very persuasive tool that may or may not affect your opinion. But why should you, the viewer, care? First and foremost, you should be able to form your own opinions based on the facts that are not slanted by bias. The media is a great source of information, but being skeptical helps to examine the information you are given more closely in order to make your own conclusions. When the media uses bias, they are trying to persuade you to think a certain way. It is very important that people make their own decisions based on straight facts. This is why you must be wary of bias in the media.